bless your time today, this afternoon at Saint Augustine University. You are now in the historical chapel at Saint Augustine University. Not going to go into a lot of history, but just know that everything in here was handmade, hand-built. Everything that you see with the bricks and the mortar and all of that, that's the reason why it's the main reason why it's historical. I love this space. I love the choir singing in this space. I love being here. There's just a presence of the Holy Spirit that's here and the purpose in which it was established. So the choir loves singing here. We have chapel in here. Mother Nita is absolutely fantabulous. Yes, that's a word. I made it up. And it's just a great space, and we really enjoy it. Thank you all for being here. We hope that you enjoy, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of this afternoon.
Welcome to the Historic Chapel. It was built by students under the supervision of Bishop Henry Beard Delaney. The cornerstone was laid in 1895.
No, I've been changed. I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. The angels in heaven done sign my name. 150 years ago, 12 Episcopal priests named this institution after me. I am Aurelius Augustinus, but you may call me Saint Augustine, Saint Augustine of Hippo. Welcome everyone to my namesake, Saint Augustine's University, and you're here to help us celebrate our sesquicentennial. I am the patron saint of brewers, theologians, and folks who have a difficulty breaking away from sin. You see, I had difficulty breaking away from sin. This saint wasn't always saintly, but by grace, I found my way back to God. The angels in heaven done sign my name. You know that I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. Yes, I know I've been changed. 'Cause the angels in heaven done sign my name. I pray my story. I'm a Christian, but I surely wasn't always. I struggled with sin even as a boy, and I was like most boys my age, you know. I remember a time when my friends and we stole pears from a pear tree. Were we hungry? No. Were we going to feed the hungry? Of course not. But what were we to do with them? We threw them to the pigs. We may have taken a few bites out of them, but we didn't get much pleasure from that. It was the act of stealing we enjoyed. It was the forbidden thing we enjoyed. So it seems for half my life, I have had an attraction to forbidden things. I was born 4th century Common Era to a pagan father and a devout Christian mother. Oh, by the way, my mother's a saint, Saint Monica. I have one brother and one sister, but I was the one who showed most promise in school. And I was a smart kid, but I didn't enjoy doing my work much, especially math. Math was boring. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and 4 plus 4 equals 6, so I wasn't good at it. But what I did enjoy was playing with my friends. And we always got into trouble for not doing our work. But then I discovered what I really loved, philosophy and poetry. After grammar school, I attended the University of Carthage. I was to be a professional public speaker. There I met a woman with whom I fell in love. We lived together. We had a son, but we never married. So still, I was not following in my mother's Christian faith. But my mama wasn't giving up on her son, because she'd be down on her knees, and she'd be praying. The same year my son was born, my father died. And on his deathbed, he converted to Christianity. But not me. I mean, the Christian ideal was just too unattainable. What man could live up to it? Certainly not I. Plus, I felt the Bible was intellectually lacking. I was on a journey to find religious truth and found most of those religions to be flawed. I even invited Christ into my life and asked him to make me chaste. But then I thought, not just yet, Lord, not yet. So still, I hadn't followed in the tradition of my mother. After university, I took the position of public orator for the city of Milan. While in Milan, I started to hear Bishop Ambrose preach. He was an intellectual, a great Christian theologian. Not only was he knowledgeable about the Bible, that man could really preach. It was because of Bishop Ambrose that I started giving some validity to Christianity. And you know that invitation I'd given to God a while back to come into my life and make me chaste? It was still on the table, but I wasn't ready. So I still hadn't converted. But my mama wasn't giving up on her son, because she'd still be down on her knees, still praying. One day I was talking with a buddy of mine and I was telling him about a story I'd heard about 2 men who converted to Christianity. And I told my buddy, if 2 unlearned men could have passion for and be confident in Christianity, then why couldn't we? So in frustration, I ran out into the garden. And while in the garden, a voice spoke to me. It was the voice of a child, and the child sang these words: pick it up and read it. Pick it up and read it. It was like a commandment from God. It was like God was knocking on the door to my heart. So what did I do? I picked it up and I read it. And what did I read? The Bible. The Bible. Say it with me. What did I read? The Bible. I read the first chapter I turned to. It was Romans chapter 13, verses 13 and 14. Timro, read that for us.
Let us conduct ourselves becomingly, and as in the day, not in revelling and drunkenness, not in debauchery and licentiousness, not in quarreling and jealousy, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires.
All of a sudden, a rush came over me. My heart was open and my soul was filled with light. Hallelujah! My mama, she knew not to give up on her son. Because all of a sudden, he was down on his knees and he was praying, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Hallelujah. Lord, if I find favor in your sight, Lord, please hear my heart's cry. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Lord, if I find favor in your sight, Lord, please hear my heart's cry. I'm desperately waiting to be where you are, across the hottest desert. I travel near or far for your glory. I will do anything just to see you, to behold you as my king. I wanna be where
My conversion, an answer to my mother's prayers.
gotta be where
My conversion, the great influence of Bishop Ambrose.
wanna be where
My conversion, very simply, God's
gotta
grace.
be where you
And on Easter Sunday, I was baptized by Bishop Ambrose. Later that same year, my precious mother died. But she witnessed the answer to her prayers. I then moved back to North Africa, a place close to my childhood home, a place called Hippo, present-day Algeria. Years later, my son died. So I then started a monastic community where I teached and preached. I eventually became Bishop of Hippo. I would later write what would become two of my most famous books, The Confessions and The City of God. I was the theologian who came up with the idea of original sin. I've written more than 5 million words on the subject of Christianity. So says the Encyclopedia Britannica. But who's counting? Who knew that centuries later, 12 Episcopal priests would say, yes, we shall name this institution after a man just as any other. A man who had fallen, but found the source of his strength. I died in my sleep when I was 75 years old. But before my death, I had done God's work, and I had finally followed in the tradition of my mother and converted to Christianity. You know, I couldn't be more proud of Saint Augustine's University. We've seen some rough times, but we've seen some mighty great times. And we're here, still standing, 150 years later. Saint Augustine's University. You know how we do. Choir, stand up and sing with us. Stand up and sing with us. Stand up and sing with us. Come on.
sing the praises to our King, for He is the King of
Thank you all so very much.
Welcome to Saint Augustine's University. This is the library. I'm Dr. K. Celeste Evans. I'm the Director of Theater, the Artistic Director of Reader's Theater.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Howard Walker. I'm a Senior Business Administration major from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon. I am Janice Holmes. I am an elementary education major and I'm a sophomore.
Good evening. My name is Alonda Brown. My major is mass communication and I'm from Maryland.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wallace Daquan Morgan III. I'm an alumnus of Saint Augustine University from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. Ready? It was just after the Civil War when 12 Episcopal priests dared to educate blacks by opening a school for blacks, and they called it Saint Augustine's. So on July 19, 1867, Saint Augustine's Normal School and Collegiate Institute was established, and the priests were excited and wanted to tell the world about this.
The Tri-Weekly Standard listed the following notice in the classified section of its paper.
The Normal School for the state of North Carolina, designed for the education of teachers for freedmen, will be opened in the Howard Schoolhouse on the fairgrounds Monday next, January 13th at 9:00 a.m.
Pupils admitted anytime on satisfactory examination.
St. Augustine's also established to train men for the clergy.
On the first day of school in January 1868, 4 students walked through the doors of St. Augustine's. The school was ready to train good teachers, and thus it was important that selection was very important.
Very selective. St. Augustine's wanted good students and good teachers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. John Hope Franklin. I taught history at St. Augustine's for 4 years, from 1939 to 1943. So my time in the annals of St. Augustine's hasn't started yet, but we'll get to that later.
But before moving on, we must tell those of you who do not know that Dr. John Hope Franklin is most famous for his book, From Slavery to Freedom.
This seminal book is the dominant text depicting the history of blacks in the United States.
Let's continue on our journey through time.
St. Augustine's time.
By 1886, St. Augustine's entered a new era.
With more and more students enrolling.
St. Augustine decided it was high time to develop a course catalog.
For the academic school year 1882 to 1883.
And it was high time to make sure that students were following the school regulations.
School regulations.
St. Augustine students are not allowed to
Leave the grounds of the institution without permission.
Send or receive mail of any kind except through the principal or the matron.
Call on or hold conversation with those of the opposite sex in the schoolrooms.
or on the grounds without special permission.
Not allowed to.
Drink intoxicating liquors unless prescribed by a physician.
And should.
Avoid drinking saloons and
Places of good time.
Now, here are some things that the students actually could do.
You mean were required to do.
On Sundays, to attend divine worship in St. Augustine's Chapel in the morning.
And Sunday school.
And evening prayer in the chapel of the school.
In the afternoon and the evening.
During the week, to attend morning and evening prayer each day in the chapel.
and to rise in the morning
at the ringing of the first bell
and
prepare their rooms for inspection. Whew.
Now, a part of this historic journey today will be told through articles from various editions of Saint Augustine's newspaper.
The first periodical is called
The Saint Augustine's Record.
The publication began in 1895.
It was a monthly newspaper.
The record included information about the day-to-day happenings on campus.
But for the first 20 years of existence, the newspaper featured appeals for aid.
This aid would go towards the general fund and the building fund.
In 1895, the cornerstone for the historic chapel was laid. The stone was acquired from the school grounds near a spring.
Out of a rock quarry, a university was built.
The first service at the historic chapel was on Christmas Day, 1895.
St. Augustine's continued breaking ground for new buildings.
Out of a rock quarry, a university was built.
In 1986, the ground was broken for
The Benson Library.
And by 1887, St. Augustine's had acquired over 64 acres of land, giving it a total of 110 acres.
Now, you know, we can't tell this story without mentioning
The
St. Agnes Hospital.
St. Agnes Hospital was the only well-equipped hospital for colored people, with one exception between Washington and New Orleans.
The first patient at St. Agnes Hospital had malaria.
the patient was cured.
And discharged.
The first surgery was performed in 1897 by Dr. Knox and Dr. McKee, and the
surgery was successful. The first baby born in St. Agnes was the daughter of Mr. and Miss A.J. Griffin.
Now, you know, the favorite baby born at St. Agnes Hospital in 1958, Dr. Everett B. Ward.
Class of 1982.
And he is the current president of Saint Augustine University.
St. Augustine's has graduated other great students like
Dr. Anna Julia Cooper.
Who was the first black woman to earn a PhD in the United States.
If you haven't already,
Go see the Reader's Theater's portrayal of her life in the C.B. Jones Art Gallery.
Henry Beard Delaney.
Delaney entered St. Augustine's a few years after Anna Julia Cooper.
Eventually becoming a faculty member.
school chaplain and bishop.
He served as the vice principal for 19 years.
Bishop Henry Beard Delaney taught masonry and was in charge of all the building projects, including the historic chapel.
He and his wife raised 10 children on the St. Augustine's campus. Most famous, Bessie and Sadie Delaney, who wrote the book, Having Our Say.
Selma Burke.
A graduate of the nursing school at St. Agnes Hospital.
She began her work career as a private nurse, but her passion for art eventually won out.
If you look at the dime in your pocket, you will see Selma Burke's work.
She designed a relief of the face of the dime that reflects the likeness of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Our St. Augustine students were and are quite accomplished.
From Anna Julia Cooper
The fourth woman in the United States to earn a PhD.
to April Qualls, production assistant on the hit television show Empire.
St. Augustine's graduates rock.
Now, in the academic year 1919 to 1920, St. Augustine's opened with 500 students.
More students meant that St. Augustine's needed
More teachers.
And one very prominent teacher was
Me, Dr. John Hope Franklin.
Again, he is the historian most well known for his book, From Slavery to Freedom.
In it, Franklin described the Black experience.
and did it in a way no one has ever done before.
Scholars call Franklin the dean of African American history.
You see, I'm an Oklahoma boy, born in 1915 to what I consider pretty accomplished parents. See, my mother was a school teacher, and my father, an attorney. I learned to read and write very soon. My mother taught me, actually. Well, plus I used to sit on a few of her classes at school.
Now, he thought about following in his father's footsteps and going to law.
But my love for history was too strong.
He received his undergraduate degree from Fisk University.
And there, I would meet the woman who would soon be my wife, and we had a beautiful son.
Both his master's and doctorate degrees are from Harvard University.
While at St. Augustine's, I taught in the history department.
Franklin not only taught, he was an avid researcher.
Now, while working at St. Augustine's, I was finishing my PhD at Harvard. St. Augustine's is where I began the research for my doctoral dissertation that would eventually be published.
It was his first book.
The Free Negro in North Carolina.
But my most important book was From Slavery to Freedom, published in 1947.
It is the longest continuously published text used in history courses around the country.
Now, I would eventually go on to teach at Harvard, Cambridge, and Duke, and wrote many other books depicting the plight of blacks. I guess I became interested from growing up in Jim Crow America. You know, the historian is the conscience of the nation.
Franklin's book helped to put the black story into the mainstream.
Dr. Franklin was awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Bill Clinton.
It is the nation's highest award for civilians.
Now, I continued to write about race, but later on in my life, I guess I developed the green thumb because I started nurturing orchids. I died in 2009 at the age of 94. Well, it is now 2017, and I understand that St. Augustine's is celebrating its 150th birthday, which is actually the reason why I'm here with you all today, to wish you all another 150 years. Now, let's continue our Saint Augustine's journey.
First, we'll begin with the Saint Augustine student-run newspaper called
The Pen.
The Pen was published by Saint Augustine students at Saint Augustine's College.
Volume 4, Number 2, December 15th, 1934.
The Victory Issue.
Saints defeat Shaw for the first time in 17 years.
But we were not called the Falcons at that time.
By the margin of a field goal made by Harold Sims in the dying minutes of the game, the Saints overcame a Bear team that we haven't beaten since 1917.
This victory was the third that the Saints have won since the beginning of this classic, which is more than 30 years old.
The Pen, November 15th, 1947.
Geraldine Davis chosen as Miss St. Augustine's.
Benson Library renovated.
Dr. Trigg, first Negro president of St. Augustine.
And did you know that
6 seniors are engaged.
President Trigg is from Georgia.
Mr. Lynch and Mrs. Latham have been here 37 and 42 years respectively.
and
St. Aug was the only undefeated team in the CIAA last year.
The Pen, December 20th, 1963.
Take line Delta. 21 new inductees have made the Gamma Rho chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority deliciously happy with the prospect of a glowing sisterhood of 40. We are volunteering our services to Benson Library, Wake Memorial Hospital, and Tuttle Community Center.
Alpha Kappa Alpha. The annual special project the members of Gamma Psi are collecting and repairing old toys, which will be handed out to children.
Zeta Highlight. Members of Phi Beta Chapter, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority wish to congratulate the newly inducted members of the various sororities and fraternities. We sincerely hope that we can work together.
Phi Beta Sigma, the Beta Xi chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, has planned various activities for the coming new year, from the cultural to the social in scope, and are designed to further enrich the lives of students here at St. Augustine's.
Omega Psi Phi. The dreams of 11 men who have strived since the beginning of the school year to enter the folds of Omega have finally become realities. On December 2nd, 1963, 11 mighty Spartans started their journey down the long road to Omega Land. These men, who all possess the great qualities that are required of a good Omega man, survived the hell week's angst, the roaring laughter of the crowd, and the constant marching and singing of songs.
Alpha Phi Alpha. The men of Gamma Psi chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated are offering their services to any students needing help in the following areas: math, biology, history, French, English, chemistry, and freshman courses. We would like to congratulate our beautiful Alpha Queen, Diane Harris, and apologize to her for not mentioning her in the last edition of the Pen.
Hollywood greetings from the men of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Sigma Gamma Rho extends Christmas greetings.
The Pen reports that too many students are missing chapel.
Now, during this festive and joyous season of Christmas, let us briefly reevaluate ourselves with our Christmas obligation. Let us make a resolution to attend chapel at our appointed times.
All right to protest.
A group of St. Augustine students who were eating in the college cafeteria discovered that the tea being served had an awful taste. They informed the person in charge of preparing the food, and for some unknown reason, they continued to serve the same tea. Several students who did not want their tea placed it on a table which was located in a central position. From this simple act of protest, they were taken before the Code of Conduct Committee and severely ridiculed.
The Pen, February 1st, 1965.
visit the Student Center, open daily.
Except Sundays.
Exclusively for students, South Campus. Players to the stage, A Doll's House. The St. Augustine's College players will proudly present A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen in the Emory Fine Arts Center on Wednesday, February 3rd at 8 p.m. A doll's house is a defiant expression of women's rights.
Sports section.
St. Augustine's phases out football,
What?
beginning with the 1965-66 season.
The Pen.
March 1967.
Dr. Robinson, elected as St. Augustine's 8th president. He succeeds Dr. James A. Boyer, who resigned last year to return to the English teaching faculty of the school.
The Pen. November 1967.
Soccer comes to St. Augustine's.
Closed practice. Our basketball team is now beginning to prepare for the upcoming basketball season.
To avoid disturbances of practice sessions, it is being requested that students should stay clear of the gym.
Student journalists penned articles to the Pen for almost 70 years.
The year 2001 brought with it a name change.
The student-run newspaper became,
The Falcon Forum.
In the November 2001 edition,
it was announced that
Football would be coming back.
What?
for almost 40 years, football had been absent from St. Augustine's. Then, in 2002,
It came back, and with it, a marching band.
Guess what else is coming back home to St. Augustine's?
Don't you mean guess who else is coming back to St. Augustine's?
he never really left.
St. Augustine's is always in his heart. On Friday, April 10th, 2014, Everett B. Ward took the oath of office, promising to serve as the 11th president of St. Augustine's University,
making him the third alumnus to hold the position of president.
Thus, it is very fitting that Dr. Ward is with us during this great milestone.
our sesquicentennial,
Saint Augustine's University,
still standing.
after 150 years.
Those 12 priests who dared to educate blacks and opened a school for blacks just after the Civil War took a chance.
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 And they called her Saint Augustine's. Thank you.
Good evening, Falcons and friends. My name is Sakura Graham. I am a junior theater major here at Saint Augustine's University. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to enjoy the Reader's Theater's Troupe's take on Anna Julia Cooper, put together by Dr. K. Celeste Evans.
I speak for the colored women of the South, because it is there that the millions of blacks in this country have watered the soil with blood and tears.
And it is there too that the colored women of America has made her characteristic history, and there her destiny is evolving.
You don't even know who I am, do you?
Many people don't know who I am. But you know, that's changing.
A United States postage stamp was made in my honor.
I wrote the first book on Black feminism. I am the fourth Black woman in the United States to earn her PhD. I am Anna Julia Cooper, a graduate of Saint Augustine's Normal School and Collegiate Institute, class of 1877.
Well, it sure is good to be back. The campus has certainly changed.
Let me tell you my story. In my day, I had to fight for equality.
Sometimes, when our Negro men were fighting for the rights of Negroes, they forgot about the rights for Negro women.
Like the rights to the same educational opportunities.
I was reading and writing at an early age.
So imagine my excitement when I won a scholarship to attend Saint Augustine's Normal School and Collegiate Institute. Let me put things into perspective for you. I was born into slavery right here in Raleigh to my mother,
A slave woman.
and my father,
Who was her owner?
I adored my mother. And I was so proud that she could read and write a little. I would even help her with her writing, risking our parole.
because according to the state of North Carolina, it was illegal to teach slaves to read and write. But I didn't care. I enjoyed helping my mother read.
I enjoyed those times we had together.
Then came the day that we got the news.
We were free.
Emancipation Proclamation.
I knew right then that I would get my chance to go to school. 10-year-old Anna Julia Haywood,
I was Haywood at the time.
a former slave, walked onto the campus of Saint Augustine's Normal School and Collegiate Institute.
I was there in January 1868, as soon as those doors opened.
I was in the very first class.
The school had just been incorporated 5 months earlier in July 1867.
So that means this year, 2017, marks Saint Augustine's University's sesquicentennial.
150 years.
Happy birthday, St. Aug.
I'll go on with my story now.
In order to be admitted to St. Augustine, you are required to be
Competent in certain areas of learning. Reading,
Writing,
and arithmetic.
You also had to have good discipline.
Good habits.
and good morals.
Those two requirements were not a problem for me.
I did so well in those classes that the teachers asked me to be a paid tutor.
I was even helping some of the older students with their work.
I loved St. Augustine's, but there was a problem.
A big problem.
You see, there were two different learning tracks at St. Augustine's. The females were to take
The ladies' courses. And you know, I was just not interested in that.
The ladies' courses.
following that track,
Would have prevented me from pursuing an advanced degree.
and I was just not going to have that.
So, I thought to take the classes that were reserved for men.
I wanted to study Greek and Latin too, and my teachers and the administrators didn't think it was a good idea.
So I continued to study, and I continued to push.
And push.
And push.
And push.
Until Principal Smedes finally acquiesced.
Phew. I won that battle, and it would be the first of many. I was working to break the glass ceilings.
What the faculty at St. Augustine's didn't realize is that they were training me to be an activist, an advocate against sexism.
Let's call a spade a spade. If you were a Negro woman,
And I was a female Negro.
That meant you were caught up in what is considered in Black feminist terms, double jeopardy.
double jeopardy.
Discriminated by whites because I am Negro.
And discriminated by Negro men because I am female.
Double jeopardy.
So, while at St. Augustine's, I realized my life's purpose.
To fight for race and gender equality.
And I was determined to do that.
So, you ladies who are alums, and those of you who are currently attending St. Augustine's, you can thank me.
Because of me,
You are able to take any class you like.
after 14 years at St. Augustine's, I earned my high school diploma and began teaching there full time.
And here's some more good news. I got married to George A.C. Cooper.
He taught Greek and studied theology at St. Augustine's and became an ordained Episcopal priest.
Unfortunately, because I was married,
give up my teaching job at Saint Augustine. At any rate, I enjoyed married life.
We had been married for 2 years. When all of a sudden, he died.
It was so sudden.
All of a sudden,
He died.
You know, I never remarried. Never wanted to.
Widowed at the age of 21.
I miss my George Cooper. He was the love of my life.
So when you go to the historic chapel today,
If you haven't already been,
you'll see the stained glass window that I commissioned in remembrance of my George.
When you enter the front door of the chapel,
The window will be on the left.
just go all the way down the aisle to the last window on the left.
The stained glass window depicts the story of Simon of Cyrene, who helped Jesus bear the cross.
I miss my George Cooper. He was the love of my life.
I left Raleigh after George's death and enrolled in Oberlin College in Ohio. St. Augustine's prepared me so well academically that I was able to start Oberlin College as a sophomore. And guess what?
I should have known my fight for equal educational opportunities would not be over.
Oberlin had those ladies' courses too.
I had to advocate yet again to take the classes that were reserved for men.
But I won that fight too.
While at Oberlin, I earned both my bachelor's and master's degrees in mathematics.
Wow. Before I was 30, I had been a former slave,
A high school
A
graduate,
teacher,
a wife,
a widow.
and earned bachelor's and master's degrees in mathematics.
and that's just the beginning.
There's a whole lot more.
I mean a whole lot.
Then I moved to Washington, D.C.
To teach math and science at M Street School. While there,
I wrote what was to become the first book on black feminism called A Voice from the South by a black woman from the South.
in it I wrote about racial and gender equality. The book includes
My thoughts
and essays
and speeches that depict areas where race and gender intersect.
And what Negro women have to do to fight for the cause.
After teaching for 5 years at the M Street School,
I was promoted to principal.
but I started having problems. Problems with the superintendent of schools.
you see, I taught my students college preparatory classes.
But my supervisor wanted me to teach vocational courses.
Now, you know me.
I was not about to do that.
Especially when I was able to send my students to prestigious universities.
I'd even attained accreditation for M Street School.
And guess where the accreditation came from?
Harvard University. My continued educational achievement
And my civil rights activism.
was hated by my supervisors. And I was eventually fired from my job. Fired.
They claimed that there was an issue with my moral character.
Now, I will not go into the details of that which they accused me, but you can imagine.
It simply was not true.
Painful as that time in my life was, I harbored no ill will. You see,
I am a child of God.
and it is He who takes care of me.
That supervisor knew that I was of sound moral character. He was just upset because I refused to stop teaching college preparatory classes.
The good news is,
I was rehired several years later by the new superintendent of schools.
He knew that I was a woman of good standing. I later retired.
And then came out of retirement to become the president of Freeland-Hoysen University in 1930. This school created evening courses to educate working-class Negroes.
I worked there for 20 years.
But then I got word that my brother died.
I took in his 5 grandchildren.
I was happy to do it.
I was teaching and raising a family when I decided to work on my doctorate.
I earned my PhD from the Sorbonne at the University of Paris.
I wrote and defended my dissertation in French.
And became the 4th Negro woman to earn a PhD degree.
And I was 67 years old when I did it.
I remained an educator and an activist for most of my life. I retired from teaching the 2nd time at the age of 95. I look back at my life and I am
Grateful
and proud.
I'm especially proud that the United States government
chose one of my quotes to place inside the U.S. passport.
So yes, if you check your passport, you'll see the words of
Anna Julia Cooper.
Think of it. I lived through slavery,
The Civil War,
Reconstruction.
women's suffrage,
Jim Crow.
and the modern civil rights movement.
It was 1964 when I
Died in my sleep.
I lived to be 105 years old.
just a few months before the Civil Rights Act was passed.
And that Martin King, he was a go-getter just like me. Ladies, we have to continue to fight for our rights.
Just like that woman's voice in the GPS says, recalculating. We've got to recalculate our thoughts about race and gender.
After my death, my body traveled from Washington, D.C., back home to Raleigh.
They had a glorious homegoing for me, right here on this campus in the historic chapel.
I'm remembering now a poem I wrote for my 82nd birthday. The last stanza reads,
No flowers, please.
Just the smell of sweet understanding.
The knowing look that sees beyond and says gently and kindly,
somebody's teacher's on vacation now, resting for the fall opening.
I am buried just a few blocks from here at the city cemetery of Raleigh.
right next to my husband.
Remember now, that's just my body in the grave.
My spirit roams this campus sometimes. And I think
when all of you leave this campus tonight,
I'll go to the historic chapel, all the way down to my Georgia stained glass window,
The
the one on the left. And I'll just sit a spell. Maybe stay for chapel in the morning and hear that wonderful Mother Nita preach.
she's a go-getter too, and smart.
Mother Nita is the first female chaplain at Saint Augustine University and the first female to be ordained in the historic chapel.
Happy birthday, Saint Augustine.
Today is a good day to be a Falcon.
150 years old, our sesquicentennial.
I am Anna Julia Cooper,
Graduate of Saint Augustine's Normal School and Collegiate Institute.
Class of 1877.
I